Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Asad Lalji. For those who are joining us for the first time, a very special welcome. Please refer to the chat box for more information on Avid Learning, our platform, and our partner for this evening. Avid Online was launched on the 1st of April 2020 in a direct response to the pandemic. So now, 18 months young and over 275 programs later, we can say that although this period has challenged us in unprecedented ways, we continue to champion and bring to our audiences the best of the arts and culture and stay true to our mantra, as always, that learning never stops. Live History India and Avid Learning present Cultural Capitals, Future Legacies of Indian Cities. This series aims to spotlight India cities, their legacy and contributions that they have made that has shaped the nation's heritage and continues to have tremendous contemporary influence and impact. Cities under the cultural microscope have included Hyderabad, Ahmedabad, Jaipur, and Chandigarh. The highlight is on the particularities of each city's unique culture and heritage and how these aspects have changed and evolved over time, influencing their perception in the wider world. Varied perspectives on cultural identity of these urbanscapes were presented as informed by history, hidden stories, and local insights. And this brings me to our evening session. Thank you for joining us on our next stop of the 5th edition on this exciting cultural journey through India's cities, Lucknow. Popularly known as the city of Nawabs, Lucknow still retains its old world charm. Influenced by the Mughal reign, Lucknow's cultural heritage is special and unique. Known for its mouth-watering food heritage, chicken curry handwork, and its impressive performing arts scene, the city still oozes of royalty. Cultural capitals, Lucknow. Allow me to introduce this evening's speakers and give them a warm virtual welcome. Philanthropreneur, founder, Lucknow Farmers Market, Jyotsna Kaur Habibullah. Design academician, founder, Sangraha Karigar Atelier and director of Kalhat Institute, Dr. Jaspal Karla. Founder and editor, Now Lucknow, Devanshi Seth. Author, co-founder and editor of Live History India, Mini Menon. For more about each of our very distinguished speakers, please refer to their bios that have been posted in the chat section. They should have been emailed to you also earlier. Today, these speakers and experts will look at Lucknow through varied lenses: the city's growing art scene, the renowned architectural heritage, and its emergence as a cultural hub. Please note, the session will last 75 minutes, followed by a 15-minute Q&A in which Mini will be taking questions submitted by the audiences. So do keep them coming, keep posting them in the Q&A box throughout. On that note, thank you once again for tuning in. Over to you, Mini, to level set, and look forward to a fascinating session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Asad, and a very warm welcome to our panelists and all our guests who are joining us for this session. This series has been particularly enjoyable because it iterates a very fundamental principle on the basis of which we set up Live History India, and a principle that Avid holds dear too, which is really the fact that India is so layered, it's so beautiful. Every city has its own character, and each city journey that we've been on has opened up so many fascinating arenas, right? Lucknow for me is very special because I have engaged with the city at different levels at different times of my career. As a journalist, you can't not cover the political hot scene in Lucknow because it was really a place which led to the formation of many governments and the breaking of many governments over the last 2 decades. But through Live History India, I've had an opportunity to see Lucknow in a different light, a city which, by the way, in the end of the 18th century was compared to the great capitals of Europe, be it Paris or London, a city which was the epicenter of a cultural renaissance after the Mughals' decline because it was the capital of Awadh, and a city that was mostly destroyed after 1857 when the British came back in. So it is a city of many parts. For many of us, it is the laid-back provincial city where time has its own meaning. It's a laid-back place, as I said, which is really beautiful. But through this panel, we will iterate the fact that Lucknow is a fast evolving city which has many, many dimensions, which doesn't fall into cliches. And each of our panelists today have worked in these different spheres and reflect the changing face of the city. That's the future legacy of the city. Devanshi, let me start off with you. You've been a journalist. You have covered Lucknow as the editor of the Lucknow Times. You've seen the region. And now you're giving back by creating a platform on Lucknow. You're a Lucknow girl. I'm going to start by asking you what and how did the city shape you?
So as you said, Minnie, I am a Lucknow girl. I was born here, brought up here, and I have seen the social fabric of the city change over the years. Sometimes it seems like it's not changed for the better, but for me, I think it has not lost its essence, even though it has changed so dramatically over the years. And for me, Lucknow really is, it's the coming together of divergent influences. That for me is Lucknow. It is not a thing that defines this city. It is not just the old part of the city which we must take pride in. Or just the kebabs and biryani that we should talk about. We are a growing city, and I am equally proud of that fact, that today my city has so much to offer for anyone coming here, other than just the history and the culinary heritage, all of that. Of course, we are extremely proud of that, but we've also taken modernity, we've taken the development in our stride, and we've brought it together without, like I said, losing the essence of the city. And as I said, I had the opportunity to cover Lucknow during my stint as a journalist. But I did realize that, when I was talking to people who came in from other cities, celebrities, people from different fields, whether it was films or any other field, the one thing that I realized that they did not understand about the city was this fact about it, that it was not unidimensional, it was multidimensional. For me, as a Lucknow person, yes, we are a city of Nawabs, but we're also a hub of so many startups. Yes, we are an extremely cultural city, but we're also the political hub of the state and the country as well, So this straddling so many worlds at the same time, I felt that there was not enough being talked about that aspect of the city. While people knew when they came to Lucknow, tunde kebab khane hai. Excellent. We all love tunde kebab, but we also love like probably 5 other varieties of kebab. We also love the chaat here. And we also love the fact that if you come here not wanting to eat kebabs or chaat, we'll give you the best food ever, So there's so much to offer in the city, and that's how now Lucknow was born. I felt the need to express how we as Lucknowites view this city. And, I realized that there was this extremely, straight-lined way of looking at the city, especially for someone who was exploring it on the internet. I realized that there was not enough information at that time, talking about the newer facets of the city. And that's how now Lucknow was born. I'd like to share the video at this point, and that would explain a little better about what I mean and how I envisioned this platform to convey everything that my city really is.
This is where we belong. अदा और अदब का शहर, मोहब्बत जहां की तहजीब का हिस्सा है और तहजीब से मोहब्बत आदत का. Our past makes us who we are, but it's our present that's turning heads. We are a small town indeed, पर क्या तो शहर है ये जनाब. यहाँ कुछ है जो कभी नहीं बदलेगा और कुछ जो बदलता ही जा रहा है. Our stories are old as time itself. and we are writing new ones every day. गोमती नगर की रोशनी में हम जगमगाते हैं, अमीनाबाद की भीड़ में भी हम ही नजर आते हैं। सुबह को शर्मा जी की चाय सुड़सुड़ाते हैं, शाम को कुलचा नहारी कबाब दबाते हैं, चिकन की बारीकियां हम परखते हैं और दाल की पकी दशहरी पर जान छिड़कते हैं। हम छोटे शहर के लोग हैं जनाब, पर हम बड़े ख्वाब देखना जानते हैं। नजरें झुकाने की अदा है हम में और नजरें मिलाने का रुतबा भी। We were creators then, we are creative now. We know where we have to go and we know just how. We are Lucknow and Lucknow is now. Visit.
Right. That's a lovely corporate film for Lucknow, I must say, because you couldn't have said it better. It is, and I think what stands out is the pride that I've seen pretty much everybody who has anything to do with Lucknow kind of reflects when they talk about the city. Of course, the pride is there for every city that we have covered, but I think Lucknow, like you said, I think in our demo run, Devanshi, that you can get out of Lucknow, but you can never take Lucknow out of you, right? So, okay. So I'm going to get Jyotsna in over here. Jyotsna, I know you moved to Lucknow about 11 years ago. We've known each other for a very, very long time. Tell me, how have you seen the city change? Because I know you have had various ways of relating to the city. First, looking at your own, the revival of your old house, and then gradually it opened up. And today you're doing so much work as an entrepreneur, as somebody who's working with farmers. But I want to ask you, what about the city kept you there and inspired you to do what you're doing?
Hi, Minnie. Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here on Live History, and I absolutely love the platform that you guys have created. So, I mean, I'm from Punjab and I grew up in Delhi. So, it's a patchwork of all things and living all over the world. And then coming to Lucknow 11 years ago meant that there were so many places that we had lived in for 2, 3, 4 years, and somehow none of them felt like home. But of course, Lucknow is my husband Amar's home, and coming here really did feel like home. It means that I still do very much have my roots in Punjab and my agricultural roots, given everything that I'm doing with the farmers. But there's something about the people in Lucknow, like what Devanshi was saying, that, they just reach out to you, and they, it's the hospitality, it's the, it's not just oversaid cliche that the tehzeeb and the warmth of people. Young Lucknow is much more professional than what you think of old Lucknow, and the hospitality and the warmth. And you step back in time almost. When you all our friends when we moved here were literally 2 generations older, because my grandmother-in-law lived here, and she was 92 when we came here, and we were in our late 30s or early 40s. And all our friends were in their 60s and 70s, and many of them still are. But that's, of course, one part of Lucknow that we absolutely love, and we learn so much because culturally and the traditions and everything, it's so rich. But young Lucknow is young professionals. I have about 50 or 60 interns every year from different colleges, universities in Lucknow, and universities like BITS Pilani, people who've come back, who live in Lucknow, who interned with me for my farmers market and my mango festival, and the other things that I'm involved in, the FICCI Women's Wing and so on. And I see in these, young people, they have, the history, they have the culture of Lucknow, they love the culture, but they have a drive to succeed. Because otherwise in Lucknow, getting work done and getting things done is a bit like, sort of patting people on the head, but, putting poking someone in the eyeballs almost, where we would go to the farm and you have to get trees planted and wo betho bitiya, wo aayega, chai piyo. They don't want to do any work, until I've actually picked up a spade and shown them how it's done. So there's a difference in the old Lucknow, which is very laid back, and and the young Lucknow, which really wants to get things done.
Right. It's very interesting that you're doing work around a farmers collective now, Jyotsna. Organic food and the entire wave around that is largely seen as a big metro kind of initiative or leaning. How has Lucknow kind of adopted or adapted to this sense of being connected to its rural backyard?
So when we moved here in 2010, actually it was more of a need of finding organic natural produce for myself and my family. I mean, we had Hari Bhari Tokris in Bombay, as you know, and all organic produce. And when nothing grows immediately outside the city, but here we were in the agricultural belt and farms right outside the city, and we couldn't find anything natural or organic. So I started the first farmers market with the Mango Festival in 2013, where I actually brought together the farmers and the government and, a public-private partnership. There's a mango university right outside Lucknow, which has about, 700 varieties of mangoes in 300 acres. You can't imagine how beautiful it is. Bringing entrepreneurs to connect them with farmers, I think, was very important, because not only is it important for us to get the fresh produce from the farmers, we are a minority, for the entrepreneurs also to make their products with the fresh produce. So the first farmers market that I had, I got a baker friend of mine to bake with organic flour and organic sugar, and half of the stuff that she baked, didn't sell out. And apart from the other farm stuff I was giving away stuff, for 2 or 3 weeks. But now, I think by 2015, people became much more aware, the markets were really successful. And now there's really, people love it, there is, people write to us and say, when is the next farm experience? When can we go visit the orchards? There are mango orchards all around Lucknow, but there's so many people whose children had basically never been there.
Right. That's very interesting. I mean, we've gone ahead in our story, but I'm going to get Jaspal in. Jaspal, another facet of Lucknow is its rich heritage and weaves. Chicken curry is, of course, very, very famous, but so is Zardosi. I mean, it was pretty much the cultural epicenter. We do a lot of work in Lucknow with artisans. But tell me what your experience has been, because if I'm not mistaken, you've got a PhD in working on re-looking at how chicken curry is done, the design kind of template that is followed, and how you can train artisans towards that. So I'm going to start by asking you, what brought you back to do so much of intense work on chicken curry, and what connected with you there?
Okay. So being born and brought up in Lucknow, I was always exposed to the what we call as a laid back attitude, but it's more about slow curation that I would say. That's the attitude of Lucknow, because it's about luxury. Lucknow has been a city where all these crafts and all these kebabs and everything has been about luxury, and luxury is a slow process. That's why most of the international brands, luxury brands, they are not untouched by the city of Lucknow. They have some setup in Lucknow, or because that's how the luxury is curated, and it's a slow process. So that's one aspect of Lucknow, which is very important in the design, and the artisan becomes a part of it. So that's what this dance, the luxury of, and the subtleness with which everything in Lucknow is about subtleness. It has multiple layers to itself, be it history, how from a Mughal era to Nawabs to prior to that Kannauj. So it has, this Lucknow itself has layers, and the best thing is you can penetrate up to whichever layer you want to. Lucknow. So that's what brought me back, unraveling those layers. And so Lucknow in itself is such a big treasure. So it always stayed at the back of my mind when I was in design academics and all. So I always wanted to come back and work with the artisans who, what I did is working on design education and creating design programs, and how we can engage these artisans, because Lucknow has been, I would say Lucknow is something which is more about narratives and more about taking inspiration. We see a Rumi Darwaza. but we don't realize that it's inspired from Constantinople, the concept of Constantinople, and how beautifully we have taken it where that you can't imagine what's on the other side of the door. That's the kind of strong concepts that Lucknow has always lived with. That's the kind of design sensibility that Lucknow has. And somewhere we lost it during the colonial period. So it was about getting back to that sensibility and bringing it back to the artisans. So that is something which I wanted to work with the artisans, because there's some design aesthetics, some design sensibility that was existing here, which is something which is a treasure to live with. So that's what brought me back here.
Right. Devanshi, history is not something that you can get away with in Lucknow. At the same time, in most cities with such a storied past, that youngsters just want to move on, right? I mean, there's a different, like you said, startups are popping up over there. There's a lot of activity in the factories being set up, etc. But I want to ask you, you have a bird's eye view on what's happening, because Lucknow now also is a platform for a lot of people to showcase their work, to come and talk about what they're doing. What is the exciting stuff happening? Where do you see the maximum buzz happening? How are you seeing, if you were to look back, sit back and look, what is the shape of things in Lucknow right now?
I think one factor that really shines through is that entrepreneurship is big in the city. Especially, you'd be surprised, despite the downturn that the economy has taken because of COVID, there's been this very, in-your-face burgeoning of home businesses. I keep harping about this, about how, the old is brought into the new. So how, traditional families, old families of Lucknow are suddenly, into home catering, or, they become cloud kitchens in the city. So, instead of just going out on the street to order, to eat your kebab or biryani, you can actually now get authentic Lucknowi food from a typically traditional family in old Lucknow, and it's a business for them. So for me, that has been one thing that I feel is really shining out, that people are taking their culture and they're building little small businesses around them. So I think food is really big on that sense. I also see a lot of crafters coming up. So again, very small, Mini. I will not even say that they're probably not even noticeable in that sense if you really don't go out looking for them, but you will be surprised at how many young people are actually getting, out there. And like Jyotsna, I think would second that, a lot of people are into conscious living. That is one thing that I have seen in the last couple of years, how it has really gone up, and how many businesses are ready to, how many people are ready to invest in a business that promotes conscious living, sustainable living. So whether it is, your organic food, or it is anything to do with plants and planters, and how, home decor, everything. So those are the three things I feel have been, and it's a great, again, I feel a lot of pride when I see that there are people who've been forced to stay in Lucknow during the lockdown, who've had to probably work from home, study from home, and they've made such good use of that time to really further their interest, passion, but also what the city stands for. So you can now take frozen kebabs, kakori kebabs from Lucknow, and serve them at a party in Delhi. So I think, and that's a business, right? But it's also taking the culinary tradition of this city beyond the geographical boundaries.
Right. Jyotsna, I want to get you in here, because what is interesting, of course, is that Lucknow, being a city which has such a strong root in its past, has always been about these genteel old families who've been around for a long time, and it's a world in their own. However, when you work with youngsters, one of the big challenges many of our cities face is the opportunities for youngsters, right? Are there enough jobs and opportunities being created for them to stay back and then interact with their cities in a different way, with disposable income, with a new kind of flavor, etc. Are you seeing that happen? Because we often find that Jaipur is a happy exception because it's so close to Delhi, it's so buzzing as a cultural center that a lot of youngsters are finding careers in Jaipur, and hence it's becoming a very vibrant city. We know that because of all the festivals that are happening there, etc. What is it looking like in Lucknow? Because a city can be a vibrant cultural center of the future only if it retains its young and its aspiring populace. Is that changing in Lucknow?
Yes, definitely. That's a very valid point for Lucknow Mini because, like Amar's family, many other people, for I think 2 generations, there was a sort of a cultural vacuum in Lucknow because people were moving out, because of lack of opportunities. And now it's so exciting to see that, there are so many people who've lived and worked in other parts of the world and who've come back. There are young people now graduating from colleges who are starting their businesses here. There's such interesting entrepreneurs, like, I have about 150 entrepreneurs connected with me through the Lucknow Farmers Market and the Mango Festival. There's a graduate of there's a guy who's studying in Amity University who actually started a brand called Sustainity, which is for bamboo toothbrushes. There are so many sustainable brands now which are being launched out of Lucknow. Look at Mitti Se. It's a brand you can find on Amazon and it's on our website, Lucknow Farmers Market, which has products from, natural and organic floor fresheners to their tooth powder, which I love and use myself, and, things like organic, dish powder to wash your clothes, because sustainability is not about just what you eat, it's about everything. And it's so exciting to see that now young people are actually realizing the opportunity of entrepreneurship in all these different fields, because unlike Punjab, UP had a huge gap in agribusiness and entrepreneurship connected to agribusiness, where we launched, different products at the Mango Festival every year. And one year, there was a Gyan, a local milk company, launched a mango yogurt. But they were actually sourcing their puree from Maharashtra. And they tried very hard to source the mango puree from here, but they couldn't. So, of course, we have dry mango and other kinds of mango that's available. So where we have, a lot of our traditional foods which are dying out. So when you talk about traditional foods, do you think we could share the information about traditional foods and we could bring up the slides and discuss that now?
Yeah.
Because, a big part of culture is looking at, what are traditional foods and our traditional recipes. There's, for example, the chutneys, the amla, there's karonda, not a lot of people around the world know karonda, but it's one of the richest sources of vitamin C. And there's a green chili and garlic chutney, which is, you can just have besan ki roti with this green chili and, your raw mango. And,
funny, I think you should put out the presentation that Jyotsna is referring to, because yes, absolutely, the local cuisine and the traditional fare, that's so much part of the culture. And as you've been pointing out, Jyotsna, it's this rootedness in tradition that is driving the new age entrepreneur, which is so exciting, because it's really, taking existing templates and trying to revive it. Yes.
Absolutely. So when I was talking about the concept that we brought about now, which is Lucknow Farmers Market, which was a physical market that I started, with a group of very exciting entrepreneurs here in Lucknow, many of them who are in their 40s and 50s. One has got a creative design company, one is a young baker, one is a corporate trainer, and of course, young students who intern with me, but a number of established entrepreneurs who've come together with me, and together we are, we've created this space which offers verticals not only for you to buy your natural foods, and but also to learn, a space to learn how to compost, how to grow your own food, absolutely everything. So you look at Lucknow Farmers Market and you'll know more about it, but I want to talk about the concept of farm experiences. So if we go to the next slide, Now, through the Mango Festival, which I started organizing in 2013, and now also through the farmers market, what we're going to be doing is offering people the opportunities. Sorry, Dhani, can we just go to the next slide? Offering people the opportunities to actually go to a farm, right? The Mango Festival is something that I started doing in 2013. And, we had, 8 successful editions before COVID hit us. And the idea was that, I would get these 40 or 50 college students, and it was great fun. For 3 months, we would work on this amazing festival. We would do an event at an orchard. We had all kinds of cultural events, from, cooking with mango, cooking contest, where people would make everything from golgappas made with aam ka pani to mango sushi. And, of course, aam ka panna, but there's a smoky aam ka panna with the mangoes actually roasted on a coal fire, and the kind of flavors, we would do the fusion food. So Lebua came up with a Turkish cello kebab, which is a mutton, kebab, which is really dense. And, like you marinate meat with papaya, it's marinated with raw mango, and it's still something that people remember. So we got all these different restaurants, the Restaurant and Hotel Association involved, and we got them to buy the mangoes from the farmers. Because, the difference when you're buying the mango from the farmer and not from the ready, not to say anything about your local fruit vendor, you have to support him. But when you buy from the farmers, it's not being dipped in anything to keep it fresh for a longer period of time. You see, if you're able to buy direct from a farmer, then firstly, you're giving the farmer the profit that he deserves.
Sure.
Because taking people to farms also teaches them, you see, you learn to respect your food. Why do so many people leave half the food on their plate? Right? You bite into a fruit or a vegetable, you don't like it, you just leave it. If you realize that somebody has put a year into growing every mango, even that cucumber or dal or whatever you're eating, it takes 3 or 4 or 5 months to grow it. So having these kids involved, teaching them about biodiversity is something so exciting, and it's just been so much fun.
Fantastic. Let me get Jaspal in. Jaspal, one of the interesting thing is really how you engage with a new generation of artisans working on chikankari, for instance, right? One of the challenges we've seen across India when we are covering the living legacy of our arts is the fact that most of the design sensibility is with the older generation. There is a lost generation in the middle. People who went out and did other things because it wasn't lucrative enough or sustainable enough. How are you harnessing the younger generation, and what is the role that entrepreneurs or youngsters play in actually coming out of design schools and developing these as brands? What is your experience been?
So basically, we're working with a lot of artisans, and the age group also varies from a 25-year artisan who's our student to a 65-year artisan who's also our student. Because we're not into skill development. We are more into, as you say, putting them into the design platform so that they can co-design and co-work with the young designers or established designers, as the case may be. So, as you said, so what we have is a mix of batches where we have seniors to young people working together, sharing their skills, and so that's a perfect balance we have tried to create. And what we try to do is create challenges every time, because once you challenge someone in terms of concepts, in terms of the skill level, or in terms of maybe a storytelling through your craft. Dhwani, if you could put the PPT on, I'll just go. So what we try to do is engage them in new opportunities, new challenges, and that's what engages the new generation, because they're no more embroidering the lehenga and a sari. What they're working on is much more different. Once the presentation is on, I'll talk more about it. So that's where, because what does the young generation need? Move on to the third slide, please. Yeah, next one. So basically, these are some of the challenges that we had put our students on. Designing costumes for Kathak, where they had to really study designers like Yohji Yamamoto and understand what is how multi-functional costume could be created, and how embroidery could be used to give out the essence of the rasa that is being performed in, or working with very closely with a young artist who's into a different kind of artworks, which is very engaging, very at times they're more about related to what we would not accept in the society as something normal, quite controversial topics also at times. But that's the kind of engagement we have. So from co-designing and working on various projects from so it's not about doing anything conventional. So that's what goes on. This is what we are doing at Sangray also. It's about taking it to the new dimension, thinking of newer products, because the moment you feel that you have to benchmark yourself different, how do you benchmark? How do you create an identity for yourself? That's where that's what keeps us going. That's what keeps the young generation going, because the change is very important for the newer generation to come in. Because if we keep doing the similar stuff again and again, even if you are working with a traditional skill, that change has to come in, the newness has to come in, and newness comes in with new challenges. Something exploring a new domain, which is probably seems quite challenging and quite difficult in the beginning, but taking on to the next level. So that's how we engage the younger generations. And then we have a lot of engagement programs where young designers from various design institutes, they come, they work with us. We engage artisans from various other clusters, like maybe artisan entrepreneur from Kutch would come and work with our artisans, and that's a kind of exchange that happens. So there's always an exchange between a senior and a junior, a young designer, a senior designer. So that's the kind of engage we keep having, because we're working with a totally different segment of people who may not have gone to a conventional education, but they have that skill. They have that. They have gone through an unconventional way of learning, which is the Ustad system of learning, and that's also their education. So we value that education, and we work with that in our studios.
Fantastic. This ability to take the old and rework it with a new flavor is very interesting. And both Jyotsna and you've spoken about it, because that's the future legacy we're talking about. How do you capitalize on what you have and really innovate through it? Devanshi, what is happening? I mean, of course, we've spoken about the food, we've spoken about the history, but Lucknow is also about its very, very vivid cultural landscape, be it dance, be it music, be it the mushaira, and all of that. What is the new innovations that are happening over there that you'd like to point out, things that have excited you? I'm going to ask you this question and take a whole bunch of the audience questions and then come back to a round of questions with you. But I would like to start by asking you this question.
So pre-COVID times is what we can talk about, because of course things have taken a hit, especially events. But I think in the better weather time of the year, which is say October to February, Lucknow has such a hectic social calendar thanks to these events that are organized. So whether it is a theater festival, where theater productions from all over the country will come and stage their productions here, whether it is a music festival, whether it's a crafts festival, whether it's a shopping. I mean, there is barely a week in those months, I think 5 months, that will go by without us having to actually hop from one place to another in a single day. So yes, the social life, the cultural performances, or the arts, as I would like to say, it's vibe. The scene is so vibrant, and I think Lucknow is one of the few cities, if I may say so, where the social elite are not just people who are moneyed, but also people who have the right taste in art, music, culture. And I think, when I was with the newspaper, covering events and seeing how different cities covered their events versus how Lucknow did it, it's interesting that we paid so much stress and gave so much importance to the cultural aspect and to the connoisseurs of the arts in the city. So yes, again, I will say this, because of COVID, the number of events
Sure.
have really gone down. But in pre-COVID times, I think we're all testimony, Jyotsna and Jaspal would agree, we do not have a single weekend free to ourselves because of this vibrant cultural scene, and because we want to be everywhere and not miss out on all these extremely well executed, well planned events that take place.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
We've got some fabulous questions and comments coming. I think we're acting as a connector to a lot of people from Lucknow wanting to reach out to you guys. So RF writes that, hey, I'm a student in Lucknow. How do I reach out to you guys? Your approach is fresh and exciting. It's amazing how each one of the speakers spoke and how that has driven me. So wonderful. You can all connect through this platform and, of course, write to each of these people. There is one question I'd like you to take, Jyotsna, in fact, a question in two parts. Sarim Naim has this question. What are the challenges one faces while starting a sustainability venture in a city like Lucknow as compared to cities like Mumbai and Delhi? And he's asked to follow on, are there any government initiatives to implement sustainability services in Lucknow apart from the private initiatives?
Thank you so much. That's a very relevant question because, I think it's a struggle for all entrepreneurs, no matter where they are setting up their business. See, in the sustainability space, number one, why Lucknow, I feel is better than anywhere else, because in, say, Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, and so many other cities, people have been conscious about sustainability for a long time, right? So here, the opportunity is that you are the first mover, So in a sense, when I started the farmers market and the, Mango Festival and, the initiatives that we're doing with entrepreneurs here, we are the first of our type, really. So more than working with government, which has its challenges at times, I find it very easy to work with the, chambers of commerce. So for example, FICCI and then citizen-led community organizations like Inner Wheel and Rotary and so many other, of course, there are, government bodies like the Indian Council of Agricultural Research, which is hugely supportive. I think that's the reason I started my Mango Festival. There's a Dr. Ravi Shankar, who was a director there at the time that I came here, and I was learning about our orchard, which our grandmother planted 60 years ago, and I just wanted to come back and figure out how to revive the orchard, how to get better mangoes from there. And my background is in marketing. I worked in corporate marketing for 20 years, and he says, ma'am, we don't have any promotion of mangoes. So that's how I came up with the Mango Festival. I thought I'd give them an idea, and that's it. I'd hand over a letter, a piece of paper, and that would be it. But here I am doing it year after year at the cost of my family wanting to kill me every summer, because it means our summer holidays are really shortened. But it's such an amazing experience, and it's brought us to these farm experiences that we can now do across the country. So yes, it has its challenges like it does anywhere else, but I think you have to reach out, find a support network, there are, for sustainability, we have now a website, lucknowfarmersmarket.com. You can get in touch with us. We'll connect you for sustainability everywhere. There are international organizations like YPARD. I'll share some links, while we're talking later. So definitely there's a huge amount of potential here.
Fantastic. Gyan Prakash has another question for you, Jyotsna, and maybe you could, share your email address on the chat over here for them to reach out. Devanshi's already started doing that. He wants to know about the Mango Festival in particular, and he's asked you to share your official email to be able to mail. So I'm acting as a connector for you guys in Lucknow to talk to each other, which is wonderful. That's what this whole series has been about. But this is a very interesting question from Professor Vibhuti Rai. How can we stimulate the idea of ethnicity for the city of Lucknow amongst the younger generation? How connected is the younger generation as far as Lucknow is concerned? Is there a need to reconnect them to their roots, to help them appreciate what they have? Because this is a problem across cities. Also because we know so little about our history, right? There's so many areas that we don't know about, and there isn't a system in which you can actually share that. So Devanshi, I'm asking you, Is there a need when you work on the content template for Lucknow Now? Did you consciously look at saying how do you connect the youngsters to their roots?
I think more than how, it was why, you know. So one of the reasons that I did feel the need to do something called Now Lucknow or start this venture was also, like I said, not just convey what's happening in the city now, but also in the what we've got as a lineage, what we've inherited, you know, as this generation, and what the younger generation is inheriting. It is important for them to know about it. Is there a disconnect? I think that youngsters are not to be blamed for it. Why is there a disconnect? Who is responsible for that disconnect? I mean, you cannot, you know, feed an entire generation on a particular ethos, a particular kind of information, and expect them one day to start appreciating their city and the culture or the values that it is bringing. Who has not taught them to respect it? I think that is the question that we have to ask. So why blame those youngsters? We tell them you must study and go outside and, you know, this particular university, and then, you know, that job. And it's really nice to be growing and, you know, to be upwardly mobile. But when you're doing that, are you also telling your child that there is this part of your heritage that you must respect? And also, children just learn what they see. So even if somebody's children are going anywhere in the world to study, but if as parents, if they love their city, and if they've respected the traditions, their children will automatically do it. So yes, there is a
starts from within, and I think that's true to every city, right? Every family. I mean, and that's one of the reasons we do what we do at Live History India, because it's really about celebrating the stories that make India and connecting people to their own roots, often their own backyards.
Just want to share one thing, Minnie, here. Sorry to interrupt. Just one experience I want to share here. So sometime back, there was a ban on outdoor hoardings in Hazratganj, which is like the main, like the heart of the city, the main market, you know. And a lot of people who were financially invested in that, you know, they obviously did not like that move by the government, because they said, well, why should you stop our source of income? And that was being done to save the heritage buildings, because all the buildings in Hazratganj are literally heritage buildings. So I was in conversation with somebody who said that, you know, if you go to New York, you look at Times Square, it's just made up of all these hoardings and all these LEDs, and it looks so beautiful. So why can't we do that? So I think that is the question that we really need to answer. Do we want Lucknow to be a New York? So there's nothing wrong with being a New York, but when you try to be a New York, you'll neither be Lucknow and then you'll neither be New York. So
yeah,
I think,
right, Devanshi, this identity crisis is not unique to Lucknow at all. Every city is right now the ugliest quarter of I mean, it's appalling what we've done to our cities. And I think that's my sub theme of all these series, that, you know, hey, we need to get back to the beauty, the aesthetics of our cities, which are completely gone, even in a city like Mumbai, outside some pockets. So that's a very wonderful point, but it needs to be iterated and underlined. I've got one question related to heritage with Jyotsna, because I know she's working very closely with citizen movements for the revival of monuments like Lal Biradari, which, you know, we have also been looking at. Jyotsna, it's a beautiful old Nawabi era monument within the Lucknow University, which I know a lot of citizen groups, and you've been part of that, are trying to revive. How are the youngsters looking at this? Because it's bang in the middle of the university. Are youngsters also, you know, actively involved in the restoration or the campaign to save this monument?
So yes, I thank you so much for bringing this up, because there's so many things we want to talk about, and somehow, you know, that I neglected this. But yes, the Lal Biradari is something that we, you know, as Citizens for Lucknow, a group of us brought up, and we've been discussing with the university. And though the university is very keen to be involved in the restoration, but, you know, we are still hoping that our campaign is going to move forward. We're at the stage of an MOU actually with the university, and hope for a lot of citizens and Lucknow University alumni to come forward and actually support this. So yes, there have been a students group and who've come and approached us and said that they're supporting this, but there's a long way to go for the Lal Baradari restoration. So in the same way that the Lal Baradari is crumbling and falling, there are so many buildings all around Lucknow. Each of you, I think, can see them on your street corners. You can see them everywhere. I can see it in the village. We work in the village where our family's from, Sedanpur in Barabanki district, those beautiful old mud houses, We started a concept of rural tourism, which had just taken off, in fact, pre-COVID, and we were getting people. The idea was we have a center that runs in our village, courtesy the Digital Empowerment Foundation, and we're actually working with weavers. And I'm wearing a top that's woven at our village today. The cotton is so soft, and I'm hoping to work with Jaspal and bring this in. He has an amazing range of products. He has to talk about it, and we work with the weavers. We work with local crafts people there in the village. For Diwali, we want people to order their baskets from the village, and so on. So the idea is that through rural tourism, people should go back to their roots, right? I think during COVID, people understood the idea of the outdoors, of places close to you. You didn't have to fly across, an ocean to go and see an exotic place. We have so many beautiful places everywhere just around the corner to be explored, which many, have lived history.
And I do hope that this session gets people excited about their own heritage, and also helps get some groundswell around the need to be together to save your own legacy, your own cultural legacy, and your own history of the city, because so much of it is driven from that, right? There is one comment by an anonymous attendee saying that I'm surprised that Kathak has not been mentioned with emphasis in this conversation. Why? So I don't know which of you wants to take the question on Kathak. Jaspal is shaking his head saying not me. But maybe Devanshi, because she's a generalist. Devanshi, what's the dance scene like?
I don't know if you saw the video, anonymous.
Yeah, but there was a lot of Kathak in that.
There was Kathak in that.
Yeah.
And yes, not being able to mention so many other things, not being able to talk about the Mukesh work, not just Chikankari or Zardozi, but Mukesh work of Lucknow. There is so much more, that we can talk about the Chandi ka work and how that is made, and how that's also like a dying art. So many different kinds of arts which need to be spoken about, and Kathak is not the least of them. How can we make the city more memorable?
So that is my next question to you, because this was a question with not just about, hey, we need to talk about Kathak, but also a lament which a lot of people have felt about Lucknow, that you have to literally go looking for its heritage. It doesn't come and meet you halfway, right? Because, and that's a problem with most of our cities, right? There's nothing over there that actively has been nurtured and cherished to make it memorable. What is the personality of a city? If you live in a city, you get the personality of a city. But unlike a lot of very old historic cities in Europe, for instance, our cities have not been nurtured in that sense. And that's true to any city. Of course, work is being done in pockets, but not enough work has been done. So I think that's a fair point, and we will address that. But Jaspal, I'm going to come to you. Somebody did have a question about how do you ensure sustainability and the message of sustainability in fashion, because that's something that is so crucial at this stage. It's the buzzword across. So when you're training artisans or weavers or the embroiders, how do you ensure that you have this conversation with them, and what is their reaction to it?
So basically, that's an interesting concept. We take a much bigger concept than sustainability about ethics because sustainability is a very so what we work on is how to be ethical towards people, ethical towards environment, ethical towards your profession, ethical towards your skill. So that's an umbrella we work on. And when you start working on that, we have a dialogue. Our work is always around a dialogue with the artisans and expression through that. So from wages to what are your professional commitments, to how looking at what is the impact on the environment. Like recently we were, our artisans were working on a project where they really had to, the chicken artisans and the Zardozi artisans had to go and understand the value system of their craft and understand what is the impact on the environment in terms of water pollution, to in terms of how it's impacting, what is the impact of wastage of fabric and how that can be recycled. So these are things that are ingrained, and you just have to trigger and create that experience for them to realize that, yes, this is an aspect we need to be conscious about, we need to be looking into. So that's how we work with them. Basically, making them think about it, then having a dialogue on, and then exposing them to what is happening in the contemporary world in other places in terms of ethics towards your environment, your own work systems, your own material, and how do you optimize things, because sustainability is about optimizing. Ultimately, business and optimization and sustainability have to go together. So reaching that balance is something where we work with them, and at times we look back at what was pre-existing in terms of what were the practices. Did we have some practice which was more sustainable than what we have? And so these are kind of dialogues that happen, and then they very closely work on these kind of projects. And more than sustainability of environment, we also talk of sustainability of craft, which is an important thing. How do you sustain your craft? How do you take your craft to the next level? How do you ensure that it sustains, and it the younger generation or the new generation takes craft as one of their profession? So that's a big question we work on, and that's where they start looking for challenges. They, like I mentioned, they've very closely worked with Kathak dancers. When I was about to say that, when we start our education program, how do we start abstraction with? They have to work with a Kathak dancer and understand the mudras and how mudra is a form of abstraction. So that's a kind of holistic exposure these people have, and then that's how an opportunity evolved later, that they started working on why can't we do a costume for these people, or then how about creating a sustainable brand for the artisans who pass out from Kalhat. And they work on with weavers which are locally here, and work with them, do a co-creation with the khadi fabric that's woven within this region, and then working on the embroidery skills, and just tell the story about the city through the basic products. So these are kind of things. So sustainability is a much bigger umbrella that we take on, because we are revolving around it. We're touching every aspect of sustainability.
Great. There is a question which could be a question for any city actually, but I'm going to take it up for Lucknow as well. In these times of extraordinary urban transformation, do you feel that Lucknow is losing its old world charm? It's losing its personality. It's losing, I mean, in a sense, there is no planned development in our cities. Everything looks the same right now. So how do you ensure that a city retains it? Is enough being done about it? I want to start with you, Jyotsna.
No, definitely. I don't think enough is being done. And, I think each of us is responsible for that. It's very easy to blame somebody else. Of course, all of us here are doing our bit, but how much are each of you doing? Everyone who's watching us. So I think each of us needs to do our bit towards it. So no matter what it is, there's something that each of us just absolutely love about our city, whether it's the food, whether it's dance, whether it's music, whether it's craft, it's pottery or anything. The amazing, there used to be this amazing pottery that was available in Chinhat, right outside Lucknow. And the fact that it's not available anymore. If I want to buy some kind of mud dishes to sell something in, I can't get it. So the fact that these things are just not available anymore means that a lot has to be done, to preserve and to bring back the things that we've lost. When I'm talking about those mud houses that are there in our village, we actually started paying the guys who had the mud houses so that when tourists come, they would give them some tea and they would have a talk, and those would be the guys who would earn from it and not any of us, and we actually got foreign tourists. And so the idea is that we've got to put the responsibility where it squarely lies, with the people. So talking about that, Mini, if I can just quickly have my last slide, we actually have an old family house in Lucknow, where parts of it were 250 years old. It's called Habibullah Estate, and we restored the oldest part of the house and turned it into a boutique retail space. May I have this slide, please, Dhwani? And, there are so many old houses like this in Lucknow. Devanshi, you've grown up here, Mini, you visited and you've seen. Most of them have turned into these boxed, modern buildings now. And it's something that, my husband Amar and I were very passionate about, and our family also supported us in this. And that's how we were able to actually convert, the older part of our house into a boutique retail space, where we were the first to bring brands like Ritu Kumar, and we brought Kimaya there, now which isn't there anymore, but we have Anoki, we have the Gitanjali Salon, we have a Cherry Tree Cafe, and the idea is...
I was going to raise this issue of how, historic spaces need a revival, a contemporary revival, which takes care of itself, because, these buildings are so difficult to manage and maintain without them being used for economic purpose. And this revival and restoration is very important. You've seen that in Kala Ghoda in Mumbai, for instance, is how a community got together to decide that, hey, let's raise money every year to kind of save these monuments. The Habibullah Estate is a great example of what can be done. And what is the effort, Devanshi, to recreate something like this and really revive some of the old buildings? Because we can't always blame the government, because, there are questions, for instance, about what the tourism department is doing. Are they even focused on things like this? When development happens, who's putting out that plan? Who's making sure that this, there isn't a destruction of heritage buildings? So I would like to ask you, Devanshi, since you have been a journalist and covered Lucknow so closely, what is being done over here, and what are the efforts that citizens can take?
So very interesting that you spoke about, what about my days as a journalist. One of the stories that I remember very vividly doing is about how people were selling their bungalows to builders, and how there were high rises coming up right in the center of the city. This was maybe 15 years ago. I think I must have done this story, and I don't see that trend really stopping anywhere. And so just a suggestion, I feel that, when people say that, not enough is being done, it is a value. I again come back to that. It is a value system, a cultural ethos that we have to give to our children as well, and probably start adopting it ourselves, where we put a greater onus on the wealth that is coming to us by way of our heritage, and not just on the wealth that is created by selling it.
Right. In fact, Nandan Shastri has this question. He's from the Ahmedabad World Heritage City Trust, and he says, has there been any attempt to submit a dossier to UNESCO to designate Lucknow as a World Heritage City?
I would like to know myself. I do not have information on that, but I do know that it was a question that's come to my mind very often.
Would you know about this?
So one thing which I know for sure, because we as a citizens group have found out, that not even all of Lucknow's buildings have been documented. So Jaspal is definitely going to know more about this, but this is how much I have found out. And I'm not a historian. I'm not an architect. I haven't, gone to the, perhaps it's happening, but as far as I know, there's a huge gap in this. And there's a lot of people who are needed to come forward and work in this space.
Right. This is absolutely a campaign that Live History India will definitely take up, because, of course, the fact is that, Ahmedabad was a great example, and we've covered that, a great example of how people came together, documented the city, worked with the municipal authorities, the local government, and made an effort to really showcase their history and get that UNESCO World Heritage City listing. It was the first city in India to do so, but Lucknow needs to do it. And I think the first step in that is really a focus back on that. I don't think, having covered Lucknow from a political standpoint, that is on anybody's agenda, really. And I think that's the pity, because you don't understand the economic value, if you want to put it as basic as that, of a World Heritage City tag, or of really reviving our heritage spaces, because they can have such a lot of cascading impact on tourism, on local livelihoods. Jaspal, there is a question that has come from Rajita Shukla, who says, while working with a younger generation of chikankari, do you see any gender imbalance? More young girls than boys, for instance? Do the young girls get support from their families to come in and get trained in organizations like yours?
Basically, talking about chikankari, we are in an age where only women are practicing chikankari as of now. Since I think 1920s, the gender change happened. And we see that kind of gender change starting in Zardozi also, to an extent. And it's basically the economic reasons for which the gender division happens. That's the tragedy of India, when the wages start falling and there's competition in the market, and market does not sustain enough so that they can run their houses. It's men who transfer their skills to women, because something would come in, and even a small and they would take up work of maybe getting work for those women. That's how chicken it became a women-oriented thing. And yes, after that there have been a lot of organizations which have worked in this sphere with women. And yes, initially when we started off, we were also skeptical that because we are a co-ed institute also, and we have men and women of every community and coming in, and we were initially really skeptical that how would this come in, because initially we started with 2 different courses. They would not come together, but they would come on work on certain projects together, so that we were just experimenting. And we were just studying how their families respond to it, how they themselves respond to it, of 2 communities, 2 genders coming together, people from different communities coming together and working. And then we took a big challenge. We took them for a trip to Kutch, and whole of the family supported. And so that was a surprise for us. And other institutes which have been working in this sector in India, for that matter, they actually started questioning, how did you dare to attempt that? How did you think about it? And we have never been able to do it in past 10 years, and you did it in the first year. But I think that's the kind of trust, the kind of engagement we started building with the community. And we work very closely with the community, and working with them and knowing with them what are they wanting, what do they want exactly in their craft, where do they see themselves, where do they see themselves growing. We create a parameter outside, we create our own parameter and try to implant it, that this is what growth is. But for that person, what does growth mean? We need to understand from that perspective, and that's what we try to do. And when you work at that perfect, I think the whole community comes into support. So
that's fascinating. There is a question which I would like to answer. The question is from an anonymous attendee, and she's asked that you mentioned in the beginning that in the 18th century, Lucknow was as famous as Paris. However, foreign tourists are mostly aware of Varanasi and Agra as tourist spots for obvious reasons, but not much about Lucknow. What can be done so that Lucknow is also seen as a viable tourist spot, since it does have a lot to offer in terms of art, culture, and heritage? It's a wonderful question. And I must tell you that India is perhaps a country with the most amazing history and the worst way of actually showcasing it, not just in Lucknow, but across the country. I must give you one statistic that always blows my mind, that in 2019, the pre-COVID year, Vietnam got more foreign tourists than India as a country as a whole. The Buckingham Palace gets 15 million people coming in every year to see the palace in London. And in India, we are still at about 11 million as far as all the tourists are concerned. So I think what I have felt, and I've seen this across cities, is that where you have entrepreneurs at an individual level driving exciting new projects around heritage, around tourism, around the cultural space, that's where you see growth. And I think we should stop depending on the government to promote our historical heritage. What they need to do is just save them and keep them intact. I think we need to get the entrepreneurial spirit to take it forward. We do that all the time in Live History India. I'm very happy to say we reach 1.5 million people every month through the stories that we do. And that's telling the stories of India. But we are going to end this discussion on a lighter note, because I'm very curious to find out where these people go out and have their dinners, what they do, what is the best place to shop for chicken curry, who are the new hot designers out there. So I am going to ask you for some recommendations, because we all, Asad and I plan to visit all of these cities the moment the lockdown is fully lifted, so that we can come and spend some time with each one of our panelists to figure out these cities, because we've been so excited about this series. So Jyotsna, what's the best place to go out and eat in Lucknow?
So it's my father-in-law's birthday today, and we are going to go and have dinner at Le Bois, where there's an amazing chef, Qureshi, who, for example, created that, Turkish cello kebab. And there's an amazing beaten kebab. I'm sorry, I can't remember what it's called, and he's going to kill me for this, which everybody absolutely loves. So, Le Bois has created an amazing place, again, where they've restored an old home and, got a boutique hotel. And of course, apart from that, there are so many new small restaurants, which have the most amazing food. But for food, I'm sorry, what I have to tell you, the home food in Lucknow, in different homes, and there are now so many home chefs which are actually selling their food from home. There's something called Abodana, a beautiful old house in old Lucknow, in Chowk, where Shiba, she actually invites you into her old home, and she serves a beautiful Awadhi meal. So, I think experiences like that are now really making a comeback. And those, of course, it's great to go out to an exciting, fun place, which Devanshi is going to tell you more about. I'm an early bird mostly, and wake up early with the farmers and don't have too many late nights. So
okay, right. So Devanshi, where do you go and shop for some great chicken curry? I'm not going to ask Jaspal, because there'll be too many options if you ask Jaspal that question. So who are the young entrepreneurs or designers who are doing great work on chicken curry?
So the best part about shopping for chicken curry in Lucknow is that you get to buy budget buys. There are there's mid-range stuff, and there's really fine work which comes for a really good price. So if you're looking for something just off the rack, something that you can just walk into a shop, choose, go to Janpath, you'll find all kinds of work. You'll find things that you can just buy as gifts. So when it comes to chicken curry, Jaspal is the authority there, but still I'd like to add, I love the fact that there is so much accessories now available in chicken curry. So even if you want to take a gift and you don't know whether that person is going to wear the chicken kurta you've picked for them, so you can take a chicken clutch or a potli or some home linen in chicken curry, which was always there, but now you have a lot of options where you can just readily buy those things. In terms of designers, I think Vani Anand for me is one of the best people to buy your chicken clothes from. Jyotsna has even modeled her stuff on the ramp at a Flow fashion show. So, yeah.
Okay, this is becoming a little close club. Jaspal,
wait. I have to say that what Jaspal's artisans, or the people who he's training, the entrepreneurs have created, the brand is called Sangrah Kal. Jaspal, hurry up and put your links up there. I absolutely love the work that they do, because not only is it chicken curry and Mukesh, but he puts in motifs of Lucknow. So you will see the buildings of Lucknow represented in those garments. You will see not only garments, you can buy things like lamp shades and tables which they have been with that kind of pattern in it. So the way that their artisans have gone to another level is absolutely.
That's why given the consensus of the views over here, I'm going to let you have the last word, because everybody, I'm sure, has their shopping list out and is actually noting it down. I am, and I'm going to look at the recording for that. But Jaspal, what would you recommend as a place to eat and a place to buy chicken curry, since you know pretty much all the great designers, you've trained them yourself, huh?
Lucknow as a place to eat. That's my first suggestion.
Okay.
Yes, chicken curry. From budget chicken curry to other things, you find there's some designers who working here, and you would find that in Lucknow. But Lucknow has a drain out of chicken. Mostly, what the best work goes out of the city. It's not retailed within the city, so that's one of the things about Lucknow. But yes, food is something which is the first thing I would say. You can go to Sanat Kada, have home cooked food at Nehmat Khana in Lucknow. And find some craft based accessories products there, and that's how what Jyotsna was mentioning, we try to create experiences about the craft in chicken curry or Zardozi. We are not so much into selling because once you have that experience, we create products around that. So that's the kind of experience we try to give in, because that's where we try to get in the younger generation also, and there are a lot of other people who are also into curated walks of crafts of Lucknow. So I think those are certain things for to experience in Lucknow besides eateries and cuisines.
Okay. Jyotsna has been kind enough to put the link to your sangraha.org.in, your email address over there at the site.
Thank you.
And wonderful to have had all three of you talk from your heart and also give us great recommendations. So a trip to Lucknow is definitely pending now, Asad.
But we'll mention a few more places, because Devanshi didn't mention the young places, and I thought she would.
Okay,
So
I think we have a reading.
I was only chicken curry question, so I can talk a lot about the food.
Yeah, the places to go out, like there's amazing new bar that's called Boho Bar in Gomti Nagar, which makes you think that, you're sitting in Greece or Goa when you are in Lucknow. And whereas, of course, Sanat Kada is our favorite place to have home cooked food when we go out. There's no, you have to just go out and Google whether you're going to go to the chaat places on the roadside or you're going to go.
You don't have to Google, you have to go to Now Lucknow.
Now Lucknow.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm so sorry. Yes.
I think you're going to make us.
Now Lucknow, Asad, over to you.
Yeah, us humble mortals who are not living in Lucknow feeling very jealous, very hungry, and very deprived. That's not fair.
And you guys are rubbing it in, huh?
Yeah, I know. I mean, and after every one of the in this series, Minnie and I say, okay, we're going to go there, and we have this long list. And I actually write these notes during every session, and I can never read them after that. But that said, thank you for sharing such wonderful insights and anecdotes in the city of Lucknow. I wrote a couple of things down. I love the idea of slow curation. I think I'm going to use that line, Jaspal. It came from you. And Minnie, I have to tell you said about historic spaces needing a contemporary revival, and you spoke about Kala Ghoda, but you did not speak of the Royal Opera House. So
Royal Opera House
bad on you.
Up there. No, I said Royal Opera House, by the way, sits up there. I mean, there is Royal Opera House and then the world.
The only reason why I said it, with across Royal Opera House, we have a Lucknow Chicken International, which seems to be this tourist stopover every time they come to visit their Royal Opera House. So I think we really need to send them to the real place, which is Lucknow, to actually take this all in. Now, jokes aside, guys, thank you so much. We at Avid, we work with so many wonderful, talented people from Lucknow, and who, they may not live there anymore, but they represent Lucknow, like Manjari Chaturvedi, like Muzaffar. We've even launched Sunita's book on Lucknow food. But the idea of this series was to present this younger generation who's doing such amazing work, and what a treat this has been. So thank you. And Minnie, as usual, you're spectacular. Thank you for moderating this so skillfully, and to your team at Live History India for partnering with us. I mean, this series is not going away. Minnie and I said, should we continue this? And we say, we've plotted this for the next few months. Only problem is our bucket list is growing longer and longer. At least my bucket list. Minnie's been all around India. No, jokes aside, thank you so much. It was such an insightful discussion. And obviously to our audiences, this would not make sense if you guys weren't there regularly supporting us and tuning in. We have many more interesting programs coming up at Avid. The next one is on women who create for change, stories of empowerment, which is next Thursday on the 7th. And that is to mark International Day of the Girl Child, followed by The Making of Coral Woman, which is a film and book which is part of the All Things Environment Film Festival. To find out more, just kind of stalk us on social media or visit our website. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and remember that learning never stops. Thank you very much once again, and have a good night.
Thank you so much.